Welcome back to the Friday, November 15th edition of the Saints Insider Podcast. I am Luke Johnson. I'm going to be hosting today. I'm joined by Rod Walker, Matthew Paris, and Jeff Duncan. We're going to talk a little Saints-Browns. A little reinvigorated week after the Saints finally got a win, their first win in like 2 months. We have some positive stories to talk about. We have some guys coming back from injury to talk about. Guys, it's been fun. I forgot what it was like to cover a team that is coming off a win.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
Yeah, like we don't root for these guys to win. You know, it's we cover the story, whatever the story is. But I mean, for me personally, like being in a locker room, being around a team, being the kind of go between the team and the fan base for a team that's lost 7 straight games. I'm gonna be honest, it sucks.
And it's not like the Pelicans can distract you from the losing either. So our pro sports teams right now are not exactly carrying the banner.
The Pelicans, or what's their G League team, the Squadron?
Yeah.
So you call them the skeletons, I guess.
Yeah.
The skeleton squad.
Yeah, they're hurting over there.
Thank goodness Tulane is carrying the banner
Nuggets.
for New Orleans sports right now. But it is good to see them finally get a win. I think everyone in the organization felt the load lift off their shoulders. It's pretty grim out there for a while.
Congratulations, Norm, to your Tulane team. Norm, our producer, is back there celebrating. All right, guys, look, the fact of the matter remains this is still a 3-7 football team. They're playing a 2-7 football team this week. It's probably not going to be great football on the field on Sunday, but we do have a lot of fun storylines. Jameis Winston is making his return. It's always entertaining. Erik McCoy likely going to play. Cooley McKinstry likely going to play. And we'll see what this team can do in week 2 under Darren Rizzi. You know, we saw a lot of the changes last week. A lot of that manifested itself in the win, which was, I think some of us saw at least the chance of that coming. Rod definitely saw that coming. He picked the Saints to win last week. We'll see if they can carry it over into week 2 under Darren Rizzi. I'd like to remind you, Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. Their banking decisions are actually made here in New Orleans by local bankers who know the community and take the time to know you. From small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. Learn more at bankplus.net. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back in and we'll break down everything about this Saints-Browns matchup. We'll be right back.
Nice bike.
Thanks. Can I get it back before Saturday?
That might be tough.
Whoa. Is it just you?
For now, let's take a look.
Can you reach that? How about?
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Welcome back. All right, so we've got a Week 11 game coming up. Again, like I said, 3-7 Saints versus the 2-7 Browns. 2 teams that are falling far short of their own expectations this season. But look, it is Week 2 under Darren Rizzi. We saw the big bump in his impact last week, or the bump in energy with the team last week with him at the helm. Look, Saints are favored by, I think, 1 point in this game. Maybe not a lot of confidence from the bettors in the Saints. Typically the home field advantage kind of goes for 3 points. So, I'm curious from y'all's perspective. Jeff, I know you haven't been around as much this week, but look, we all felt the energy last week. It felt different in the locker room. Have you felt the same type of energy this week? Have you felt different? Do you feel any different about the direction they're going under Darren Rizzi after?
No, I feel like that energy's carried over. Just the whole vibe in that locker room. Every interview we've talked to people, and everybody seems to like. They seem to. It seems to have carried over, and I think we're going to see that. And again, I think I've kind of talked about. I said this earlier, I guess, in the week, that I think this opponent is a good opponent to try to get a second win and keep that energy going. So that's probably why I kind of believe in this team again.
Yeah, and like, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because this is like a kind of a weird measuring stick game for them, right?
Right.
Because I think a lot of us are feeling confident in the Saints because they're going up against a 2-7 team. Like, this is a team they should beat if they're going to be a good team. But like, again, the Saints are also 3-7. You know, maybe the Browns are looking at the Saints like, hey, this is our chance to get on that. So it's like not the measuring stick game like I don't know, the Eagles game was or the Chiefs game was, where you're like, this is one of the best teams in football. Like, this, let's see what we have against these guys. It's really like, okay, if you think that the changes you made last week are really good and you think you're kind of back on track toward being the team you want to be, like, this is the game that you should be winning.
Right. I don't think we even learned much about this team this week other than that the energy carried over. Like, I don't know if they win this week, I don't know if we'd say, oh, the Saints are good. Like,
Right.
It's just not that kind of game.
But if they lose,
right,
then I think you can
there we
officially
go.
just say, like, well,
Okay.
the Saints are just a bad
This
team.
is who they were before Rizzi, and this is who they are after Rizzi.
Yeah. Matt, you wrote a story earlier this week on what it's going to be like for this team to try to carry over that momentum from you see it often in the NFL when an interim coach takes over, that kind of immediate bump, the immediate juice. And a lot of times it fades, not always, but a lot of times. So like what was kind of your takeaway in that piece? And you know, now that you've had a couple more days to just view it, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Darren Rizzi said it well, is that this is going to be their biggest challenge this week, is with all respect to Myles Garrett and that Browns defensive line, very good Browns defense, they're really kind of going up against themselves for the change. And I just think that, like, Rizzi does seem to kind of have the pulse of what these guys need, and whether that turns into a dramatic season turnaround or whether they'll just finish like 6-11, 5-12, like maybe that still happens, but I do think he's been able to squeeze a little bit more out of this, and I think the favorable schedule really helps.
Yeah, I think the best thing they've got going for them right now is they're very aware that they can't have a letdown. You know, they're talking about it. It's something that's everyone is talking about. We've got to maintain the energy and enthusiasm. So the self-awareness is half the battle, I think, of knowing it, because if you just came in with your head in the clouds, it'd be easy to, I think, have a letdown after that big win and see a 2-7 team come in here. But it sounds like that's job one for them all week, is trying to maintain that enthusiasm. So I think if they just show up against this team, you know, the Dome ought to have some enthusiasm, I would think. You know, I just can't imagine them. I can't imagine them losing the Browns. I know that sounds crazy, but the Browns are just in such disarray right now. They've traded away. You know, they're in sale mode. They're playing with their backup quarterback. They're kind of, you know, there's a lot of fans all over Stefanski, even though I think, was he the coach of the year last year?
He's two-time coach of the year.
Yeah. I mean, there are people talking about getting rid of Kevin Stefanski. You know, there's just a lot of disarray. I think this is the perfect opponent to keep this thing going.
I think
Saints would probably be very interested if they got rid of Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it's helped. The Saints are
Kubiak.
probably getting back as healthy as they're going to get, too. I mean, I think that kind of it's like all this stuff is kind of lining up for Rizzi when you look at the schedule. And, I mean, again, obviously they're not going to get Rashid and probably not getting Olave back. But as far as
like this season.
yeah. So I think that helps as well.
Put a pin in that. We'll get back to the guys coming back. But, Dunk, I'm always interested to get your take on this. The atmosphere in the Dome, you said you're kind of expecting a good atmosphere in the Dome. I'm also curious, like this feels like the prime game for there to be a lot of opposing fans in there. Browns fans are used to their team losing. They still support the team.
Right.
It's people escaping Cleveland in mid-November. This is usually like a game that like cold weather fans have circled for late in the season to come down, see a cool city, nice weather. It's like cool down here, but they're going to come down here in their shorts and t-shirts and everything like that. So, what kind of atmosphere you expect in the Dome? You expect a lot of Browns fans in the Dome.
Well, yeah, and this is a team they don't play very often. You know, the Browns I don't think have been here for a while. So, yeah, it's a rare stop. fans probably, if you're a Cleveland fan, this is going to be one you circle to travel. You know, a lot of fans, I know Saints fans pick 1-2 games a year to go on the road. This would be one for all the reasons you said. We saw it happen with Detroit. Was it last year? Detroit kind of took over the dome.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen with Buffalo, right? So, I mean, there's a common theme there.
Pittsburgh a couple years ago.
Yeah,
they had a ton of fans in.
Yeah, and the Browns, you're right. Like I grew up being a Browns fan in Louisville. My brother and I supported the Browns. We picked the rival of the Cincinnati teams, so we were Cleveland Browns fan. So I find a lot of correlation between Saints fans and Browns fans. Long time suffering until the Saints won that Super Bowl, always having quarterback issues, a lot of heartbreak. I mean, the Browns were an original franchise, and they still have never even been to the Super Bowl, you know? And that franchise has great tradition. You know, arguably some of the greatest players in the history of the game at that franchise. So those fans will still support the team, even though they're struggling right now. They'll definitely, I think, be down here in force. So the Saints, I think, it's incumbent upon them. Just like last week, I thought it was huge that they started fast and got some confidence and got some momentum and got the crowd into it, because the crowd hasn't been that enthusiastic, rightfully so, because they lost so many games in a row at home.
And if you're a Browns fan and you're really locked in, you could go see LeBron Saturday night too.
Yep.
I mean, it's Akron, Ohio. So
Is he playing? This is I'm
it's a back-to-back, so I don't know.
I'm throwing my Pelicans frustration out there, where every time I go to see a star player, it seems like they're like, this is a rest day for him.
It's the second
Has Steph Curry played here in his career?
It's been a while. But LeBron, I mean, the Lakers aren't coming off a back-to-back. They play the Spurs tonight, so
All
right.
right.
I don't know.
Well, go get those butts in the seats at the blender. All right. The big news this week, and Matt, this is going to be really the focus of your story, your Sunday piece. Erik McCoy is look, he hasn't been activated off injured reserve yet, but like literally every possible sign out there says he's going to play. How big an impact is that?
It's huge. Yeah. So when you were looking over my story, you had a helpful edit of his impact in the run game. So I looked it up after. This season with Erik McCoy, they've averaged 5 yards per carry, 4.1 without him, which is still a respectable number. For his career, like if you expand it to 6 seasons, the number's 4.3 and 3.7 without him. So makes a huge difference in the run game. For this scheme specifically, he's vital just because he handles all the protection calls. That's something that Clint Kubiak believes in. And he's just kind of the heart of their offensive line. And kind of the focus of the piece, which you can read on NOLA.com, is kind of how everything crumbled after he exited. And I don't think that's a coincidence or diving into it.
Yeah, and I think he also bolsters the confidence of the whole line when he's in there. You know, he's the best lineman probably on the team right now.
I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, and his experience and all the know-how like you talk about, I just think he'll lift everyone around him, you know, especially the guards right next to him. So, yeah, I think his impact is arguably next to the quarterback, maybe the biggest on the team.
And I think he just makes life so much easier for Carr. I mean, it's just one less thing Derek Carr has to be worrying about as far as the protection. Erik McCoy can handle all that, and it just makes everything work smoothly like we saw in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and like, you know, they run the zone running game, and, you know, it's all about the offensive linemen being on tracks, and look, just anecdotally, it has looked completely different. You watch those first 2 weeks, and it is like 5 guys moving in sync. They're all getting off in the same step, and it looked beautiful. And granted, it's not going to be like that every week, but since you take them out of there, it's looked hard. The holes haven't been as big, the movements haven't been as in sync. Yeah, I think he has such a big impact. And like Derek Carr said, it's like you never know how big an impact the center has if you're just like a fantasy football player, or you know, you're playing Madden or whatever. But that guy is like the fulcrum around which the entire offensive line operates. So huge player to get back. They're also probably going to get Kool-Aid McKinstry back. He was a full participant in practice yesterday. We were fully expecting him to be back in the lineup. So that means you've got more than likely Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor on the outside. You got Ugo Amadi, who I think has played very well as a slot corner since they've asked him to move in there. the nickel, and you've got Shamar Jean-Charles and Rico Payton as depth there, which I think makes them a much stronger unit than they have been the last couple weeks. So, big deal for them.
And, the other thing, Cleveland, as stout as they are up front, and people have run it fairly successfully against them. So I think it's a good opponent to get that running game going again and establish that as the foundation of this offense.
Agreed. Two guys who are, I would say, definitely not going to play. We're recording this Friday morning before they put out the injury report. But we feel pretty confident. No Jamal Williams, no Lucas Patrick this week. So we'll probably likely see Nick Saldiveri in there, probably see a healthy mix of Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill again, maybe some Jordan Mims, who I thought flashed a couple times in the last game. And then Pete Werner, I think probably not, right?
Probably not. I mean, I think they're going to – it wouldn't surprise me if he's listed as questionable, just even though he hasn't practiced this week. Maybe they leave it open in case he could just put a club on it and go. But Darren Rizzi compared it to Willie Gay's injury, and Willie Gay missed a week and then returned. So wouldn't surprise me if he missed this upcoming game.
It's been like kind of a weird thing with Pete Werner this week, where he's been out there in a uniform and helmet, and he's been out there watching everything, but he hasn't practiced.
He's getting mental reps, I guess,
right,
through the walkthroughs and everything.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's obviously an injury you can't play very well with if you're a linebacker, right? So I mean, I would imagine they're going to be cautious with that.
It is his right hand, and I think Werner's played pretty well since he came back from the hamstring injury too. So that's potentially a big loss, especially going up against the Browns rushing attack that includes Nick Chubb. Really important player. Okay, real quick, let's get into our Saints Transactions segment, which is proudly sponsored by Associated Grocers. Join our team and help support the success of local independent retail grocers. Apply today for available positions at Associated Grocers. No real transactions to speak of this week, so we'll go with the Superdome transaction, and that is that Sunday at halftime they are going to unveil Jahri Evans as the latest member of the Ring of Honor. Several of the current members of the Ring of Honor are Hall of Famers, guys like Ricky Jackson, Morton Anderson, Sam Mills. They've got franchise icons like Archie Manning up there, Will Smith, Tom Benson. He's joined a pretty exclusive group of Saints players. I know we talked a lot about this in the summer when the Saints announced it was happening, but Jeff, really, I want to get your take specifically on this since you are involved in the Pro Football Hall of Fame selection process. I mean, Jahri Evans has a legitimate case. Mm-hmm. And really, when you're looking at it, he's a member of the Saints coaching staff right now. I'm not exactly sure if they're even going to be able to bring him out because he's going to be in the locker room at halftime. But look, you can make the case that for the span of 7-8 years during this Saints renaissance, he was the best interior offensive lineman in football. Yeah,
he's best interior lineman in Saints history. I think at least he's the most decorated for sure with All Pros, multi-time All Pro,
4 first-team All Pros and 6 Pro Bowls.
Right, all-decade team. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame. I'm surprised he hasn't had as much support early on here. I mean, he got eliminated last year when we went from 15. He was a finalist. We do a first round of votes, get down to a top 10, and he didn't even make it to the top 10. And he was easily the most credentialed player that didn't make the top 10 by far. He was more credentialed than some of the players that did. But there's a little bit of a waiting game you have to play, kind of a bottleneck right now. But it's certainly a deserved honor for him. I think he fits with that other illustrious group that's up there. You know, he's such a soft-spoken guy. It's amazing he was such a dominant player. When you talk to him, he's kind of this big teddy bear, very quiet. But, man, when he played, and I think his story of how they found him out of Division II Bloomsburg, and I think he missed his senior year in high school for a basketball injury, had a knee injury, so he got overlooked and ends up at Division II, and the Saints draft him in the middle rounds in 2006. And he started immediately. I mean, that's crazy if you think about it right now. Can you imagine a guy from a Division II program starting right now? I mean, it just was amazing back
like
then.
Josiah Aziram beating out Trevor Penning for a starting tackle job. Yeah.
And then dominating kind of right away. So that was a huge find, obviously a feather in the cap for the scouting department. He would have been at Penn State or something probably if he would have played his senior year. So, but a great story and a great player, and I think somewhat a little overlooked this week, that storyline. Probably because we did most of it back when they announced it.
Yeah, and Rod, you wrote a column about Jahri back in August. Do you remember anything from talking to him about that, or just about what this honor means for him? And
I mean, he's such a humble guy. I mean, he's not going to, he just kind of, he appreciated the honor, and like Jeff said, he's definitely deserving. He plays one of those positions that probably gets overlooked in a way. I'm not on the committee, but I would imagine guards and special teams players are the hardest ones to try to get in, maybe tight ends or something, maybe. But yeah, he's definitely worthy. It was a no-brainer to get him up there. I am on the Saints Hall of Fame committee, and he went in there a few years back, and
no-brainer.
It was just a unanimous choice. So the Ring of Honor is, that's as good as it gets when it comes to this organization. When you look at the names that are up there, the ones you just called off. So definitely deserve this honor.
Yeah, and what I missed on that was Willie Roaf, another Pro Football Hall of Famer. So second offensive lineman going up in the Ring of Honor, pretty cool for Jahri Evans and the Saints organization.
If you look at that Hall of Fame monitor that Pro Football Reference puts out, it kind of has a formula putting together credentials and stuff. He is by far the highest ranked offensive lineman that's not in the Hall of Fame right now.
All right, so you heard it, voters. Get Jahri in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, come on, man.
He deserves it.
Maybe we need a better selector putting the case together. Maybe that's the problem.
That's probably true. I think Matt could probably do a better job.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Matt to do substitute.
Yeah.
All right, Saints fans, Associated Grocers is hiring. If you're looking to join a team dedicated to supporting independent grocers, apply today. Your future star is here. Okay, we are going to take another quick break, and when we get back, we will break down the Saints offense versus the Browns defense and vice versa, and then we will get to our keys to the game and predictions. So stay with us, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. All right, quick before we start, we always appreciate you guys for listening. We always appreciate any feedback you offer. We read the comments, unfortunately, sometimes for the mean ones. So please, if you like our show, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell your friends, let us know on Twitter, Instagram. Jeff, you're on TikTok probably. Let us know everywhere you can. We appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate the support.
No love for Blue Sky, man?
Eventually. Blueski.
Oh, Blueski, that's right.
That's
It's not Blue Sky?
I called it Blueski yesterday, and Luke's not letting me forget about it.
No, I'm not. I actually will never let you forget about that. Okay, let's start with when the Saints have the ball, guys. Last week, got off to a really, really good start offensively. They didn't punt in the first half. Derek Carr was hitting some bombs to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Alvin Kamara in the rushing attack was going. And then second half, the wheels kind of fell off. I think 3 and out on 5 of their last 6 possessions. And thankfully, the one that they didn't go 3 and out on, they got the field goal that ended up being the difference in the game. But a little bit of a tale of two halves. Not really sure exactly what to expect. So when you are thinking about this matchup between the Saints and the Browns, Rod, what's kind of your most important thing that you're looking at offensively?
I think, the same thing we've been saying. It's got to be able to run the ball, and I think with Erik McCoy back, that's going to happen this week, I would imagine. They didn't get any receivers back this week, so I don't think they're going to be taking a whole lot of shots down the field. But I think they'll pick their spots like they did last week and do that. But I just think it's going to be a heavy running game.
A lot of Alvin. Is Taysom going to – I keep waiting for – I feel like they hit him in the first 2 weeks of the season, and we saw all this fun stuff in training camp. They do a little bit of it, but I feel like maybe the injuries just kind of took their toll early, and they don't want to just pound them into the line.
Was that the Cleveland game, the cold game when they did?
So that was the one where
the real
I really started losing
right.
full faith in Pete Carmichael, because it was like It's like 8 degrees and the 40-mile-an-hour wind. Like, you're not going to throw the ball. Why don't you just give it to Taysom like 25 times?
Right.
Like, I don't think he touched the ball in the first half of that game.
Everybody was
and I was
losing
like,
at that
what are you
game.
doing? And then they started feeding him the ball in the second half, and they took control and won the game. It was like, obvious McGee over there. Anyways.
Yeah. So, I think we, at least, what did he have, 4 carries last week? 3?
4, I think.
4 for
Yeah,
like
he had 4
10
carries, and I think
yards.
like 2 or 3 of them, or 2 of them were on the opening drive. Yeah. 2 carries. He had that 88-yard.
Yeah, he had the big touchdown,
Yeah.
big explosive play. He got called back.
Maybe he ran out of gas after that and just like, I'm done.
88 yards.
Not
34.
Taysom. Yeah. So, I don't know. But I think he will get a lot of carries this week. I say a lot, but more carries.
I just want to see it.
Yeah.
I just want to see it. Like, we spent a long time this offseason talking about it, and it looked like it was going to happen, and then it just never happened. So, I don't know. Matt, what are your thoughts?
I'm interested to see if they can build off that play action game that was really working last week.
5 of 7 for 130 yards and a touchdown. 153.3 passer rating. I didn't even need the notebook for that.
It was their 3rd highest rate of play action since the first 2 weeks of this. It was their highest rate since the first 2 weeks of the season. And getting Valdez-Scantling involved, I think, is a huge element of their offense that was missing with Rashid Shaheed down. I'm just interested to see if they can kind of keep taking those explosive shots and if they work. And I actually think Erik McCoy being back helps that as well.
Yeah, I think, and we always talk about the elusive get Juwan Johnson involved, and it never seems to happen either. But I think with
The 2 great mysteries, Taysom Hill and
I know.
Juwan Johnson.
I don't get. You know what's funny is like I saw some video the other day of like a couple of years ago, and he was having huge games just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, when Jameis was quarterback.
It was 2022 season. Jameis or Andy. I mean, he had big games at both of them.
Yeah.
And then he had that monster training camp last year where like he's ready to take off. And it just never happened.
Had materialized. So you think that at some point he's going to have one of those games, but because of the injuries to the receiving core, how decimated that unit is, I would think they're going to have to get some production. But Foster Moreau is having a quietly productive season, I think. Carr seems to be more comfortable throwing to him than he does Juwan Johnson right now. But the running game's got to be the foundation, and then everything comes off that, like Matt said, sets up that play action. And if they can keep – it seems to me the key to this whole offense is being able to get an explosive. I mean, the games they've won, think about it. They've had that deep passing, explosive play ability, and even the one that got called back with Taysom was a big explosive play. When they don't get those and they have to kind of inch their way down the field, this offense isn't quite efficient enough, I think, to do that consistently.
Carr threw for a season high in passing yards last week, and he had plays of 67, 40, 34, 22, and that screen to Alvin gained like 30 yards.
And he would have gone over 300 if Alvin had caught the ball. So
Yeah, that was a perfect pass. So, like, that's a good point. He would have been over 300. But and they had that early in the year. They had those explosive plays. So, and it's going to be hard to get those with the group they have. They don't really have – I mean, MVS is probably the one guy you think of, unless Mason Tipson finally comes through for us.
Norm, if you want, just record this, and then let's just play this over for the next 7 weeks for when the Saints have the ball. I think this is just going to be this is just going to be what it is for the rest of the year. I don't think anybody's going to be emerging as a star. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is what he is. What he did last week is who he has been as a professional. So nice addition. He can give you some juice, but he's never going to be 8 catches, 112 yards, move the chains on third down, go to number 1 receiver. I am interested in 2 things. One, I was intrigued by Kevin Austin last week.
Yeah.
They seem high on him. Hear him talk,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. They do. It just makes me wonder what took so long. He's been on the team since July 22nd. The only day he hasn't been on the team was cutdown day when he had to go through waivers. So, look, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. They don't have many of those guys on the team. He can move. He can obviously make some really spectacular catches, like his first catch, the toe drag on the sideline. I'm interested. I like what I saw, and I think it gives them a little bit different element than what they have. Now, granted, he was on the practice squad all season for a reason. And I think we saw in training camp he'd show up one day make 4 or 5 really impressive catches, and the next day have a couple drops or be out of position. Stuff you got to deal with as a young player, but I'm interested to see where that goes. He's still on the practice squad. We don't know if he's going to be activated to the active roster, but I think he showed enough to me in the last game to have him back up. 2 targets, 2 catches. I think he ran 12 routes. He got 2 catches for 40 yards, something like that. And then the other one, and this is like one that I'm surprised none of y'all brought up, is, I mean, this is going to be a big game for the Saints offensive line. Having McCoy back is really big this week because they've got some dudes on that Cleveland defensive front. Obviously Myles Garrett, probably the best defensive player in the game. Like I think pretty widely regarded that way now that Aaron Donald's not in the league. Absolute game wrecker, and we're probably anticipating he's going to be spending a lot of time over Tali Fuaga.
Right. Yeah, no, and Fuaga's worst game of the season was that Denver game against Zach Allen. He was kind of just manhandled, and if there's a defensive lineman who can manhandle you, it's Myles Garrett. Thought it was funny yesterday. Clint Kubiak was asked about what Cleveland's line, like where it ranks for the defensive lines they play, and he's like, I don't rank them, but Myles Garrett is the best in the league. It's like, I don't do rankings, but this guy is number one.
But I'm comfortable saying that because, duh. Yeah.
And I think third down's going to be big this week. Am I wrong about this? I think Cleveland's defense leads the league. I think in third down defense. Their offense is last in the league in third down. Their defense, I think, leads the league. So big thing. And the Saints, as you mentioned, last week did not, and especially in the second half, weren't very good on third down.
Yeah, and Jim Schwartz, their defensive coordinator, he is widely respected and well known for his pressure packages. We're going to see how well Derek Carr handles that. We're going to see how well Erik McCoy handles that. I think they've got good players on all 3 levels of their defense. Myles Garrett, obviously, Jeremiah Wosu-Koramoah.
Yep.
Koramoah?
Yeah, he's excellent. Very underrated player.
Yeah. Small linebacker, never. He's one of those guys. Everyone's like, maybe the Saints take this guy, but they never would have taken him because he's like 212 pounds. And then Grant Delpit, I think, is still a very solid safety for them on the back end. So
Denzel Ward,
very good corner. So they've got players on that side of the ball. Switch gears. Let's talk about when the Browns have the ball. Who wants to take the Jameis bomb?
Alontae Taylor.
Roderick.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Tyrann Mathieu gets
Tyrann Mathieu was talking some smack. He's like, yeah, Jameis, he's going to throw us up. I can't remember what the word he used.
That gets us a meal at Clancy's if it happens, remember?
Oh, if he doesn't throw
No, if he doesn't.
If Tyrann gets one.
No.
That's what I'm
if
saying.
Jameis doesn't throw an interception.
That's when you all get the meal at Clancy's.
If he does not throw an interception?
He doesn't.
Oh, okay.
That's how sure I am he's going to throw one. And it has to be to Tyrann.
Tyrann, though, right? Yeah.
No,
Okay.
to Tyrann.
To Tyrann, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tyrann's got to get. And they all count, man. Deflected ball, I don't care what it is. If Tyrann gets a pick,
I think,
but it has to be on Jameis.
Wait, so what is our?
So do we get the Clancy's dinner if he doesn't throw an interception, or do we get one if he throws one to Tyrann?
Or both?
No, you don't get one if he throws it to him. If he doesn't throw an interception, I'll take you out to Clancy's.
But if Tyrann gets it, we don't go to Clancy's.
You all take me.
Oh, I see.
That's the bet.
Okay. I got you now.
All right. I mean,
Yeah, I think with Jameis, man,
This is how we'll if Tyrann gets the pick and that's the one pick in the game, then we can do that. We can cancel out both bets where you pay for all of us and then the 5 of us pay for your meal, which is still going to be knowing your meals at Clancy's probably like $200 for us.
Get me out of the hole, Tyrann. Get me out of the hole.
right. A Cowboys Steelers bet still waiting to have some Clancy's off that.
Yeah.
All right. So, look, Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. He started 2 games for them, had the tremendous first start, let him do a win over the Baltimore Ravens, had a pick dropped, came back very maybe next play or same drive at least, and threw a game-winning touchdown pass. And then his next start, he threw 3 interceptions and a loss. So they're coming off a bye week. Jameis is once again named the starting quarterback. We've seen plenty of Jameis. What are you guys expecting?
I think we've seen. I mean, those 2 games, Cleveland fans they've
The
kind of
full
seen it.
Jameis
They've
experience.
seen the whole. Yeah, they've seen it. And took them two games to see it, and I don't know which one we're gonna see because I do think he's gonna come in here. Obviously, haven't played here. you have to wonder, like, is he going to try to do too much? And because if he tries to do too much, I mean, that's usually a bad thing. So I'm really curious to see which Jameis we see this Sunday.
I think we'll see both Jameses. I mean, that's
I agree.
That's how it goes. That Minnesota game after he replaced Carr was maybe the best individual pass I saw last season was his touchdown to A.T. Perry where he just needled it in.
YOLO.
And then maybe the worst throw I saw last season was his interception later in the game that clinched it for Minnesota. So I think he's just a quarterback that likes to take chances and often is wrong. I've said on the show before that I didn't understand the Taysom Hill mystique before coming to this beat and then kind of getting indoctrinated. Coming to New Orleans, I didn't understand the Jameis thing, and still being in New Orleans, I don't understand the Jameis things. My opinion on that has not changed.
Well, that's just, I think it's a phenomenon with Saints fans. Saints fans just fall in love with certain players, and usually it's some backup quarterback. I mean, they love Teddy Bridgewater. I think there was a mural of Teddy right downtown.
Yeah, my favorite Teddy story was I think it was the year he's about to be a free agent. I went to a bar to watch a SEC championship game, and the tip jar just had a handwritten note on it that said Teddy's next contract.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's unique to this market, I think, in a lot of ways, where the Saints in some ways are like extensions of people's families. And, there are players, and you defend their honor at all costs. And certain players fall into that umbrella, and certainly Jameis did. It more so than most backup quarterbacks, I think.
I think having grown up he grew up in Alabama. He's from the South. He hung out in the city. I mean, they just felt so connected to him. He just felt like one of them. And I think that's kind of why people love him so much.
And Jameis also, to his credit, his team around him, they know how to market Jameis. They do a good job of that. Every offseason, you'd find his videos on social media. I mean, he has a good team around him as far as getting his name out there and getting people to like his image, I say.
But I will say though that I think a lot of that was genuine with Jameis. I get what you're saying with the marketing. Yeah, I know. But I remember last year was Mardi Gras. I mean, it was after his last game with the Saints, and everybody knew he wasn't going to play with the Saints anymore. And I was trying to get back to my neighborhood on Endymion Saturday, and that's when the crew of Nomtalk rolls in Algiers. It's not like a big, huge, parade. There's a lot of people out there, but it's not like one of the marquee parades from Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And I'm stuck in traffic because there's only one road in and out of my neighborhood during that parade, and I see just Jameis Winston walking by, just going to somebody's house.
Yeah, to
watch the crew of Nomtalk, and that's the sort of stuff that made him endeared here in New Orleans, and people loved him for just really, really diving into the city.
And his teammates love him. That was very apparent last year. And I tweeted this out last year. If you remember, before he left, he not only did he go to the wedding of one of the assistant equipment managers, but he spoke at it and blessed the marriage. And that's genuine Jameis. I mean, it really was. I mean, so it speaks to him. I think that little things like that go on behind the scenes about him that make him, so beloved by his, friends and teammates.
Yeah, because this week I talked to several of his teammates, and they all just talked about how much they loved him. And, you asked about Jameis, and I was trying to get some guys what's your funniest Jameis story? And, they'd all just kind of laugh because they all kind of had one. And because he's just so kind of quirky, I guess, in the interviews, always just saying funny stuff.
Yeah, he's goofy.
To eat the W. I mean, it's like that constantly, and people, loved it.
Well, no question the funniest story was when he went through the gauntlet. The quarterback, remember that? And just got
that was good.
Got jacked. I mean, that's classic Jameis. He's he's not even supposed to really be going through that. It's a running back drill for the most part. And he dives in there and just gets annihilated by
the dummy. Yeah,
it was so funny. That's what sparked the
leave me alone joke.
Yeah, because it was just such a funny scene, but it's classic Jameis. I'm going to get in here, and then he gets destroyed, and then he laughs at himself.
Right.
That's the other thing. Doesn't take himself too seriously. That's another great quality he has.
So people love Jameis around here. We'll see if they continue loving him if he throws a handful of picks. A couple other things to get to. I think Browns' offensive line is maybe more like the names are more well known than they're playing well this year. They got some good players in there: Wyatt Teller, Joel Bitonio.
They're really banged up at left tackle.
They traded Amari Cooper this year. They've still got some, like, if you're draft nerds, they still got some like high draft pick guys on this team.
Jerry Jeudy,
Elijah Moore, guys who haven't really produced that well.
Njoku.
Well, David Njoku, I think, is going to be.
No, he's good.
he might go off for 200 yards. If you have David Njoku in fantasy, I'd start him this week. But I think the guy to watch out for, and this is the guy who's really developed a nice rapport with Jameis Winston since he's come in, as Cedric Tillman, second-year receiver out of Tennessee. He's somebody that I really thought maybe would make a lot of sense for the Saints, but the Browns kind of scooped him up before the Saints had a chance last year. He's a guy, like, I think he was the one who caught that go-ahead touchdown pass against Baltimore. Really had a nice rapport with him. Anything else stick out about those guys? Nick Chubb?
I was going to say, Chubb out of the backfield in the passing games, definitely a threat that they have to be aware of. We've seen the Saints get burned by some big pass plays to the backs. You mentioned Njoku's tight ends. We know the history there, but I really think Chubb out of the backfield has to be something that they're very aware of. I'm sure they are in game planning.
Is Jameis going to check it down?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Jameis might throw. He might average 25 air yards this week.
Right.
They've given up. They're like last in the league in sacks allowed. They've given up 43 sacks,
43.
almost 5 sacks a game almost.
Yeah.
A lot of that is Deshaun Watson, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how many times. Yeah, I don't know how many James has been sacked in these last 2 games, but James will check it down, so you may not get any. But
His check down is to the first down marker. That's the check down. Anything past it.
All right, let's get into our keys to the game. Who wants to start here?
I'll start with. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball. Kind of carry on. I thought Joe Woods' answer this week was really interesting when I asked him about Alontae Taylor, and he said that he was up and down, that he didn't really play with the proper technique that he needed to in kind of the outside corner. So for me, it's don't give up those explosives, but just play with sound technique. I think that's what the defensive line did a lot better this past week and why they looked a lot better. And so if you're the Saints secondary and you're getting Kool-Aid McKinstry back and you have Alontae Taylor kind of rising to this number 1 corner, is just play sound football. Don't give up explosives because Jameis loves to target them.
for me, I'm going to say not let number 95 for Cleveland dominate this game. I mean, Carr doesn't need to be taking hits and getting hurt and throwing the ball. I mean, they need to protect him, and if they can do that, I think they'll be fine. If that doesn't happen, I don't think the Saints will have any problem winning this game.
Yeah, I'm going to steal Matt's line from earlier. Like, the Saints' biggest opponent this week, I think, is themselves. Yeah. If they bring that enthusiasm again, play with that high energy, I think they have this team outmanned, especially here at home.
Man, you guys are leaving me the easy one. Saints have to force turnovers. I think that's their easy path to win this game. I think that they are a team that has, even though they've really struggled this season, obviously 3-7, I think they're a team that has still, throughout the season, capitalized on opportunities to make plays in the football defensively. And I think they're going to have opportunities to make plays in the football defensively this week. Whether that's beating this line that's given up a bunch of sacks, again, a strip sack. They had 2 of them last week. Let's see if they could fall on the ball this time. Or if that's Jameis giving them an opportunity to go intercept the ball. That is going to happen. Even in the games Jameis played really well as a Saints quarterback, there was always 1 or 2 where the other teams had a chance to make the play.
And when it's there, they've got to make the play.
That's what I'm saying.
Because Tyron almost always will. I know he dropped one earlier, but
Alontae, Denver, he had one right in his bread basket.
Yeah,
that was
but
so
Alontae has struggled. He's been up and down with that. Because they're going to have opportunities. They're going to get their hands on the ball a lot. They've got to make the play when it's there.
All right. Those are our keys. Now we're going to get into predictions. A lot of confidence in our group for a 3-7 football team. First, I'm going to go with Zach Ewing's pick. Zach is not here today, but I think his pick was based solely on what Jeff picked. Just going to pick against Jeff.
It's not a bad move.
Zach picked the Browns to win 27-21. I don't have his reasoning for it, but you can yell at him in the comments. Rod, what did you go with?
I picked the Saints 23-16. Cleveland doesn't score. I mean, I think they're last in the league in scoring too, like 16 points. They just can't score a lot. But obviously James can have a good game and they could score more. But I just don't see that happening where they can score a lot of points on the Saints.
So I'm going to take the Saints 27-24, and I'm actually predicting they are going to score more points because I think Jameis is going to be motivated to go out there and try to gunsling and show the Saints what they're missing out on. And I think that's why I have the Saints scoring 27, because I think they're gonna make a couple plays on the ball, and that's going to get them either some short fields, opportunities to score some defensive touchdowns. So I think the Saints get it done this week, and I think it's gonna be one of those sort of back and forth fun games, even though they're two bad football teams. Matt?
I like the Saints 23-17. I didn't pick them last week. I was wrong, and so for those reasons, I'm gonna go with them now. I underestimated the energy bump that they got from Rizzi, and I just think that's going to continue.
I think 23 is a very popular Saints number.
Yeah, 3.
Because I picked
There's 3 23s and 2 27s.
Yeah, 23-9. I think the only time the Browns have scored over 20 points this year was against the Ravens, of all people. I can't see them scoring very much with that offense in the dome. The Saints defense, other than the corner positions, fairly healthy. So I think that unit just dominates this game. I can't see Cleveland running it very well on them. And I think they get some defensive turnovers and short fields and kick a lot of field goals and win this game I think they're going to win this game pretty easy. The only thing that gives me pause is the fact they're only 1.5
favorites.
That seems weird. Vegas knows something we don't. Seems weird to me.
Yeah, I always feel a little nervous.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to get you to take the Saints. Yeah. So I don't know. To me, this game is an easy win as long as they don't, like Rod said. I can see the one thing happening is getting wrecked by Myles Garrett. The ball's on the ground, strip fumble the other way. That's the only way I think the Saints could lose is if they gift wrap some easy scores for them.
All right. So you heard it here, some irrational confidence from the people who cover the Saints. We will be out there on Sunday. They kick off at noon. We will have a post-game show shortly after the game. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if we're talking about first winning streak since weeks 1 and 2, or if we're back on the losing train with the Saints and rethinking all those happy stories that we had to cover this week. All right, thanks again, guys. I am Luke Johnson. I've been hosting today. I've been joined by Rod Walker, Matthew Paris, Jeff Duncan, and Norman Bell as our producer. Thank you for watching, and we will see you Sunday.